folks. Today we're playing doctor, and our patient, ECOWAS. What are the symptoms? Right here on the chart, we have chronic indecisiveness, acute powerlessness, and a recurring case of military coup confusion syndrome. Back in 1975, ECOWAS had big dreams: economic unity, regional stability, prosperity. Fast forward, and we've got more coups than trade deals, more sanctions than solutions, and more emergency meetings than actual progress. Meanwhile, ASEAN over there in Southeast Asia is out there thriving, proving that regional organizations can actually work, except, in West Africa. Our question today is, so is ECOWAS just under the weather, or are we looking at a full-blown institutional failure? And more importantly, can it be saved? We should start writing obituaries, perhaps. And of course, I'm not going to be diving into this topic alone. The topic we're about to discuss today extensively, or as briefly as we can, is, does ECOWAS have cancer? With me today, as usual, are my friends, Covan and David. And I think we're going to have a very, very, very impactful discussion today. How are you guys doing today? How are you guys feeling?
Fine. I'm doing quite well.
Think about my monologue.
It's very, very good, actually. I had to stop myself from cheering. It was quite good.
Thank you. Why is David not answering? David, what do you think about my monologue?
It's okay, let's go on.
David always has to be a hater, bro. Like, he's crazy.
He's a hater, bro.
Come on, man.
There has to be one of them.
Okay, so let's go now. So, obviously, one of the questions we would have to ask ourselves here is, has ECOWAS lost its original purpose? Or is it just simply evolving in response to modern, challenges and the way the global system has been set up recently? I think that's the problem. Or it's just failing, So is ECOWAS failing or evolving? That's the question.
I would like to go first on this, and to be sincere, I can't give you a straightforward answer because when ECOWAS began, I think they had a clear motive for what they wanted to do. They wanted to thrive the West African community, aside from the influences of Western culture as came out from the same period of time. But we have to understand the rise of conflicts, political dynasties trying to be established, military rule, and all babies countries. So they have not developed their own economies instead of trying to forge community based on different countries that were in different colonial systems. And we see that there's a mixture of a lot of former French colonies with English colonies and all that. So they had different ways of beliefs, and even internally they now had their own struggles and all those things. Yes, that could be an excuse for ECOWAS, but now we're talking about 50, 60 years into the future, whereby I won't say it's been a type of economic stability per se, but as an organization, you should have moved on in the particular way. I don't think there's actually any excuse we can give for ECOWAS. See, we see that a lot of the issues that they face are still the same, and they've not been able to we can't pinpoint at least 6, 7 things that they have really done economically. Yes, they've acted like doing a lot of peacekeeping and moderation and diplomacy, but economically, I'm not even trying to invest in West Africa because it's considered such a hostile space in consideration to Asian, because you don't really get anything done with the type of instability that is going on in all the countries. So they say it's failing 100%.
What do you think?
In my opinion, I actually don't think it's been or it's isn't, so to say. I feel like it is in a stalemate type of thing. It's stuck in an atmosphere where it doesn't move, it doesn't
so it's stagnant.
Whether reduce or increase. So it's stagnant, exactly. So we've seen all the way from 1975, even though it had this infantile mentality at that period of time because they had just switched on from the colonial rule to independency. And then most of these nations were just looking for means to say, they own their own economy, they own their own political system without any external influence, even though they were largely still influenced by external parties. So we're able to achieve certain achievements at genesis of their creation, at the genesis. And I think particularly why they were able to do that, personally, I would say is because of Nigeria. Because if you look at it, most of the economy, most of the finances that went into the peace missions, the whatever missions they were having to sort of the efforts into ECOWAS were mostly contributed by Nigerian. And so the more economic problems and political issues that the country faces, or the forerunner country faces, becomes an issue for the entire organization. because no other one's picking it up. No other one has the capacity to pick it up as much as Nigeria did.
Are you saying ECOWAS is failing because Nigeria is failing?
The way it is, yes.
Okay.
It is not moving forward because it has lost its main benefactor.
But you know something that is very funny about ECOWAS is the fact that they needed to expand their objectives. Like they had to revise their old treaty, like in the 1993, to revise the treaty to expand their objectives towards peacekeeping in order to foster to cater to all the political instability and the weak economic performances they were having. And that's what will bring about, ECOMOG, all those democratic activism that was happening in West Africa. But when we look at these things, I believe expansion came across as like an excuse for their inability to actually meet up with the main objectives, because they hadn't actually done anything particularly with the
economic
initial objectives they had set out, right? Because if you're looking at promotion of economic integration, free movement of goods and services, common trade policy, infrastructural development, all these things, you didn't see any of these things, and all of a sudden you expanded your objectives towards peacekeeping, political instability. So you can make the argument that obviously if there's political instability, you cannot really do economic progress. Economic progress can be a thing. It's so funny that it wasn't until like around 2002, I think, they even instituted the free movement in West Africa, like the passport, the ECOWAS passport. It wasn't until 2002. You can imagine, 1975. Wow. That is terrible. I think you're right. We're stagnant. I think that's the best way. And if you are stagnant, I think we can as well just call them failures,
Can I say something to that?
Sure.
Because as you said, sincerely, the position of ECOMOG and then diverting or including keeping and diplomacy as part of the objectives, really like, okay, we understand that, as David said, West Africa, after independence, were riddled with so many issues. And rightly to say that, okay, economic development cannot be pushed forward if there are political issues and all that. But should that not be the job of something like AU or AU?
Exactly.
That should be, exactly. They're now burdening themselves with that to the point that ECOMOG had a force. They were actually going into countries and trying to set up. They had like a military wing and so many other things. You remember the paper that I won't say we wrote exactly, that we never successfully wrote. But if all of us did our research parts, we should have seen these issues. Like when I was researching for this podcast, most of those things came up. Literally distracted in the 80s and 90s. And rightly so, I'll give it to them because there are a lot of issues, but they never really vected back to addressing the economic situation of the society, of the community. Never really, honestly, because if you look at Asia now, Asia was really able to get a cohesive economic climate. And I don't know if they have currency for their community, but I know they are close to it. Either they have it or they are close towards it. And we are nowhere close because, there's Naira, there's SEFA, and so many things. And then there are so many differences, economic objectives, and as David has stated too, political strength of Nigeria that literally, Nigeria was literally the one helping ECOMOG to the point that Nigerians at that point were even asking that, okay, are we doing for our own selves? To the point that we are spending our tax dollars outside. It was always an issue in the 80s and 90s when we're literally doing everybody. So
that concept of the whole ignominy at home and glory abroad. Him trying to hype himself abroad, and then his own home country is consistently suffering. But I think the reason why they also had to participate in resolving certain issues that they were facing is just like in a federal system now, where you have the federal government, the state system, and the local governments. Would not have issue in your local government, wait on the federal government to come and intervene. It will take a longer process for the federal government to come down and intervene. So those are the local government are supposed to or are expected to something sort of, let's say, save the situation before that thing is done by the federal government. I think that's just the situation with ECOWAS and AU. Whatever thing ECOWAS wanted to do, whatever peace mission they wanted to do, whatever intervention they wanted to have, AU would still come up and then intervene as well, or partner with them to try and find a permanent solution to it. Even if, let's just say they achieved it.
I keep hearing the common excuse, especially between you and Covan, like talking about the infertility, the childlike nature of the African countries, the West African countries, during the creation of ECOWAS in the 1970s, right? And both of you seem to postulate the idea that because of they were young countries and they were facing a series of challenges. That was a reason. That was one of the reasons why they were unable to, put up a very, very good structure or give results, basically. I would like to disagree. I would disagree with that point because looking at Southeast Asia, they were in the same boat. If you look at the historically, they were colonized. They were. In fact, some of them became independent around the same time. Most of the West African countries. It was like a global South thing, whereby the colonial countries began to release colonies. In the 1960s. 1950s,
late 50s.
Yeah, late 50s and so on and so forth. So we were basically in the same boat, but somehow producing results. Look at Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore. Singapore is one of the biggest cases you can't even imagine. China, because if you look at China's economic development started in the 1980s. That's 1980s is just here. 1980s, and we have created ECOWAS since 1975. Yet there's been, in fact, you say open borders for trade and economic integration. Yet Buhari, during his tenure, the giant of Africa, down the borders, restricted inflow of trade from countries into Nigeria. This is supposed to be the leader of this institution. So I feel like when we're talking about the infertility, the childlike nature of these West African countries during the creation of ECOWAS, I don't think it's a good enough excuse, because when we put ourselves in a parallel to ASEAN, the East African organization, the Southeast Asian organization, we're a massive failure, compared to them, and we were in the same boat.
But if you want to argue then if you look at the leadership structure of ASEAN, the way they were brought, colonialism and everything, the transition into the economy that they have, because of sort of leadership they had. The strong leader, they had absolute leaders, they had autocratic leaders. But you had who was fighting for democratic, free and fair election and all those things. So their real focus was not necessarily on how are we going to be strong, we're going to make the economy strong, but they were all focused on how are we going to get peace. Everybody would be settled, everybody would be calm, society. And I think that's what they believed actually use a healthy economy. And so I still believe it was that underdeveloped mindset that they were having, not properly informed.
Piggybacking on what you said, let's discuss the indifference of ECOWAS. Because we discussed earlier that there was an expansion of objectives which was revised in 1993, the Lagos Treaty, right?
Yeah.
But then we need to talk about, since they put that the military, peacekeeping aspect of the objective now, we should have a discussion on the indifference of ECOWAS, especially as it relates to military coups, undermines credibility of, the constant military coups have been undermining the credibility of the regional authority,
Yeah.
ECOWAS has been facing criticism because of how they react to certain military coups. The way they react to Niger would be different from how they react to Mali and Burkina Faso, or the way they reacted to the one that happened in Guinea. Exactly. It's like they don't even know what they don't have a structure of what the reaction should be, to these coups. So let's discuss that.
I think it was in 2001 they had the supplementary protocol on good governance and democratic something. They added that to whole policies and everything. And so they ran with the idea that every election has to be free and fair, and then every military forces has to be controlled legally under the authority chosen by civilians and things like that. And then we've seen that long run, those presidential elections and so-called free and fair were not working. Certain countries, I think particularly countries like Guinea, where leaders that are so said to be democratic would want to twist the constitution to
like Alpha Conde,
their terms. Increase their term in office and everything. which basically is already speaking as an autocratic government on its own, because
Totalitarian
you're
government,
trying to power more than normal. And I think they already had like a proposal on ground. Yeah, they already had a proposal on ground where the ECOWAS was to determine the number of term a particular president from all West African nations is to stay, I think, for just 2 terms alone. And then 2 other countries, I think Guinea and one other country, disagreed with that. And then that proposal wasn't touched at all. And this paved way for all the whole issues that were going on with the increase in term. I think also in Ivory Coast and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that opposition parties, other bodies within the country would actually campaign against it, because that is almost seeming like an autocratic government at says. And it's not even as if those elections were free and fair. They were using intimidation. They were stealing ballot boxes. They were threatening people. And so ECOWAS did not even adequately address those human rights violations. They had kept in their original objective to promote human rights, blah, blah, blah. They were not able to even focus on their original intent of protecting human rights. They now tried to salvage the situation when military intervention steps in. And that was the only thing they actually addressed. They did not address other underlying issues. And I think this is why those 4 countries that left ECOWAS are still insisting on leaving, or they've even left.
They've left. They're actually 3. Guinea hasn't really joined them yet. He hasn't.
Those things, they created a policy and they are not sticking to the policy. There is no proper implementation of the policy or even go up. What are you doing?
Covan. I wanted to ask, so there was something that David said earlier, and I think it's still in alignment with his point, because when the whole ECOMOG started and they started infiltrating into issues of countries to address political instabilities, people said that because of Nigeria's heightened influence, that ECOMOG was just like a tool to carry out their own foreign policy. And I'm asking if this could have played a role in how they address different from different countries. Basically, what I'm saying, do we believe that Nigeria actually used ECOMOG, or in a sense, ECOMOG portrayed Nigeria's foreign policy beliefs or objectives?
Yes, definitely. When we, back in school, when we were studying foreign policies, we were made to analyze some of these things, especially the foreign policy of Nigeria. And one of the things you see, foreign policies of Nigeria, even from the beginning of after independence in the 1960s, even down to Nigeria of today, like a foreign policy of African centrism in our foreign policy, which has been very paramount, even when we were not really supposed to focus on that aspect that we're supposed to develop internally. We were focused more on trying to play the big brother to Africa. You'd see that would even be one of the reasons why ECOWAS was created in the first place. Like if you research the whole thing, even the AU, the African Union.
I knew there was a point when a lot of the francophone countries were unhappy. Yeah, because they literally felt that ECOWAS was just Nigeria's finger on Africa.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it feels that way even till today. It feels that way. And as a result of all these things, I feel like the agenda is just so lame, so stupid that our leaders had no direction, they had no vision. And instead of conjuring something or putting together a proper foreign policy, they decided that they were going to waste our resources, our internal resources and everything. Just portray ourselves as the big brother of Africa. That's where we got the term the giant of Africa. But in what regards? Because if we look at ourselves now, how are we the giant of Africa? Oh yes, I believe ECOMOG. ECOMOG was a big part of Yakubu Gowon's foreign policy. He used it to gain grounds. Neighboring West African country in Sierra Leone, even Abacha used it. Sierra Leone, Liberia, during those wars. So yes, I strongly believe it was it was a tool to propagate his policies.
Let's ask another thing too. The things that we see in other economic communities, such as in Europe, they were able to establish a currency, and then the Asians, they have after too. I don't know if they have a currency. The trade system is basically free and stable. So do you think not having own currency, or as we said, when David gave a statistic concerning our free trade movement, whatever, was it 2002 or something? And I'm not even sure if it's completely free, as they say. So do you think the failure of us not having currency some of the things that's making ECOWAS to be stagnant or failing?
Well, leave that currency aside first, but
I
I would
don't
like
even
David
think
to answer
I don't even think it's necessarily a currency thing,
at
because
all.
before you establish a currency, you should have like a common custom union, a common market, or even a monetary union ongoing within the society. But there is nothing like that even established. Even a free trade area, or maybe you're going to West African countries to buy something. The amount of, like, I've seen videos of them telling you that, oh, join me on a trip to go to Ghana or Benin Republic. And the amount of money you spend, custom, you're part of ECOWAS. Why are you paying such amount of money? In my trip, I remember in my trip to a particular West African country, I will not call name before they will come and so in a trip, I remember us being stopped that border. We went to the country and then they stopped us at the border. And you know, they started separating us, people with used Nigerian passports, people with new Nigerian passports. And then if you had new Nigerian passports, you had to pay more money. Then if you had a used Nigerian passport, you pay less money. Or you are still paying money. And then those people that go with like national ID cards, oh my God. So if you have all these underlying issues, how are you even saying we are making progress towards economic integration, not to even talk of common currency?
Well, there's no free
Another
trade.
thing is our currency in the individual country even hold enough weight, even say we are creating a common currency.
We can't have a common currency. Yeah, I don't think it even happens. Like, if you look at the EU, it's not been successful. That's why the Brexit happened, so on and so forth. Well, that's one of the reasons why the Brexit happened. Euro is not really successful as like a integrated economic integrated currency. And you know, because they were hoping that this stuff would be like a medium of exchange. However, some of them still trade with the dollar. Why sanctions from the United States still like affects them. They have not really, you know, succeeded in really integrating their currency. I think it's something we can do. And obviously, you said earlier when we started this discussion, spoke extensively about the interference from the outside, from like external forces, especially neo-colonialists. So they would like to deny the fact, but we obviously know the reasons why the Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali even withdrew from ECOWAS. The result of some of this interference, even in our organization ECOWAS, because they were using President Tinubu, who is now the president or chairman of ECOWAS, proxy, as a proxy, sort of like try to intimidate these people back like a democratic government. You know, there was a point earlier in Tinubu's regime where he was mobilizing troops, you know, to trying to get Niger like a medium of deterrence, but Niger didn't budge. Now they have created a whole different organization, and a like totally different. That is one of the beginning of the end of ECOWAS. I'll just say, put that out there, like the beginning of the end of ECOWAS. So now you have 3 countries gone. They have created a different place, and now they want free trade for themselves. See, they're saying, okay, you guys in ECOWAS, you guys can still have a little of our free trade. We're going to be independent. We're going to create development for ourselves. And it's obviously because of the failure of the organization. So in essence, yes, round up. I think we've had this full discussion, but like quickly discuss the issue. Ali, Niger and Burkina Faso leaving the ECOWAS. What does this mean, you know, for organization in the future? And what do you think the future of the organization is?
Before we even go into that, I think what we also need to do or discuss is the fact that I will go back to that, but we're talking about comparison between ECOWAS and ASEAN, but even in Africa, other sub-regional communities like the East African Community, EAC, for instance, they are also still doing well. They've established like a common union, a common market, and they are actually actively pushing towards achieving a monetary union. Same thing with the South African Development Community. So like even in Africa, there are other communities that are actually putting effort. South African is not just I don't know.
I think the reason why is because Asian countries have successfully separated themselves from their colonial masters. successfully.
Yeah.
And because if you look at it, do you know that the United States and France still choose some of the presidents that even go into power in some of this country? In the last election of Nigeria, some people might think it's a conspiracy theory, but we had evidences that proved that our president is a proxy of the CIA in Nigeria. So you can imagine. So these guys influence elections, not separated ourselves from our colonial masters, put all these, they give us all these loans with back end rules, make repercussions.
Put all even control our currency,
exactly,
with the whole CFA and everything.
And everything. So you can imagine we have not disconnected from them, and they're still controlling us, and they are siphoning us of our resources. We cannot do anything because we are not even fully independent, I think.
I feel like our leaders, whoever, I don't know, it has been a challenge out. I don't know what people are doing, like the people advising the government, those special advisors and all. This is the issue people have, because you just pick up our chemist finished from so and so because she's like a family member, and you make her special advisor on politics.
Those guys are crocodiles now.
Exactly.
And
if you read some of their biographies and you not even understand what's going on.
So this is why I think you would see American politics and you would know historians are behind advice and everything. People that would actually give you cogent information about what has happened in the past, how it will affect the future, is the way forward. Or you're calling someone that her life or her 4 years in school, she was dealing with microorganisms and something to advise you on politics.
So she should definitely advise you on profit, regardless of the impact it has on the state.
Yeah, obviously. So, special advisor, I think that is just the area they need to address.
Let's forget about the special advisor. Even the presidents, leaders, they are unqualified, terrible leaders. They are selfish. They're greedy. Like, let's not even talk about special advisors. They are the problem. The guys at the top, they are the problem. They are the ones letting these guys to hop around on us every single time. It's true.
I just keep looking at numbers where they say, oh, every Nigerian, for instance, every Nigerian is owing, I think what was last year, we were owing over 500 and something per Nigerian. And now this year it has gone to 700 and something. Before you know it, now everybody is in 1 million debts.
That's 1 million. Something I never did. Never hold anybody in my life. But these leaders are the ones. Nah, that's crazy, bro. It's pissing me off. At what point we need to, like, what can we even do? Like, that's the question. What's the way forward now?
I would say, like, in an article I read, for instance, when they were talking about the whole challenges of ECOWAS and then the even of Mali, Niger, Guinea, and last one, Burkina Faso. The particular author made mention of the fact that ECOWAS is actually formidable. It can be a formidable force. It actually backs up policies and its words and its objective. Sometimes they create objective, they create proposal, but they don't implement anything. They just say it's in the open and then nothing is being done afterward. So it becomes a challenge because people see that and then they now use that weakness a means or as a window actually do certain things that would disrupt the thing. And then we've seen it of history we've seen history repeat itself over time, where when things are not going well in a democratic system, the military will not stand put, would want to intervene. It's happened in Nigeria, it has happened in Mali, it happened in Niger, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Ivory Coast. So you are not implementing proper measures that would actually help nation or help these nations grow economically, politically, and even in peace. Would you call yourself an organization? I feel like that's why I said again that it is stagnant, because it is not making progress and it has not reduced its influence. Influence is in reducing, but people still place ECOWAS as ECOWAS.
Okay.
Do you get? Yeah. But it has not reduced, finished. And so it still has the potential to pick itself up because only 4 has left of 15, remaining 11. If we are not careful, this is how they keep dropping.
Basically, in my own opinion, the solution to ECOWAS, I don't think is anything that is quite straightforward. But what I would say is that firstly, to understand that they need to be on the same page. I think that's the main issue with ECOWAS. That they have objectives, but I don't really think economically they're going the same direction. That's the contrast we see with Asian. Most of them, from when the organization was set up, tried to grow together. That's why and everything was able to be implemented so quickly. And but for us, I think countries facing their own political and economic issues want to grow together, and they know it's the best way as a community to better strengthen Africa or West Africa, their own economic issues. That's why free trade is not really so free, and that's why we let's move along, even like a business person to trading between those countries. It's not that easy because secretly I think they are competing. So things they have to do is address their own issues. Secondly, I said formally, it's not really something that we can deal with ourselves, but colonialism is a big issue towards holding ECOWAS down and the entire of Africa. So I would say those are the two main issues they need to address moving forward. Yeah.
Personally, for me, we need to look at some of the stats. The statistics are very worrying, especially as it relates to economics. If you're looking at the macro and microeconomics of like West Africa as a region, not even scratching the surface of the possibilities that we can have. And I think AES, which is the Alliance of Sahel States, I think their alliance kind of creates division. It's the last thing we need right now in our region. Because first of all, we're already impoverished as a region. To have ourselves divided, it's just a terrible, terrible thing. Shouldn't be happening right now. It's going to cause more problems for us. I think it's just a point into the fact we as a region need to start contemplating our lives and looking inwards and saying we should help ourselves. Nobody's going to help us. It seems like everyone is trying to ruin us. If you look at the IMF, is trying to ruin us. These loan agencies, China is even trying to ruin us in some type of way. The United States is trying to screw us. And then, recently, was it earlier last week or thereabouts, they were like unveiling things about the US aid. It was just conspiracies upon conspiracies and how the US aid is even a ploy to further underdevelop us. You can imagine. Things are just crazy to hear. And if you're looking at this, like the statistics, the economic indicators, it was like period of from like 2021, the value of trade among ECOWAS member states as of 2021, 9.76 billion. That is so small. You have no idea.
Very, very small.
That is that's 11.28% of the bloc's total exports. 11.28. that is mega numbers. Jay should be making that in a day if they are serious. And now look at the other stats. We're collectively we're importing goods about $153.2 billion we're exporting. So we are the ones doing ourselves. Our consumerism is terrible in this region to help ourselves out. Consumerism is terrible. Start fixing up. And one of the major aspects is leadership. We need to reset. I don't know how we're going to do it, but that's something we have to reset. Look at the Niger guy. Dude is special. He's taking nothing. He's not taking anything from these guys. France are currently even leaving Senegal right now. It's just giving you a pointer. Sahel states, we are the coastline states, the ones that are usually the rich guys because we're the big boys. We have coastlines where we can export. But now those Sahel guys who are in the deserts are saying, we've had enough. You're treating us like we're lesser. We are going to get rid of this colonialists, and we're going to get rid of you guys. And they're basically trying to get rid of us.
I think Burkina Faso has already done that.
They've done that now.
Their debt.
They paid off all their debts. Can you imagine? Even Niger have started to industrialize. What are we doing, man? That's all I have to say about this, man. Seriously, it's depressing. If you look at all the objectives that were set for ourselves, we have not even met up to 10%, if we're being honest. But man, you know what to say.
I think still on leadership, I feel like one major thing or hindrance they are having is seeing three presidents as chairman of ECOWAS.
Like, where did that even come from?
An independent person should be the chairman. Because they would always want to twist and turn whatever
there's a conflict of interest
to favor them. Exactly. So why would the president be the chairman of an association? He should be someone that is an independent person that probably has
an industry captain or something.
Someone that would actually do something and not stall the growth. I feel like that's another aspect they should also look at as well.
And it's not like we don't have people. We have people that can handle these things for real. Like,
of course,
we have people, smart people. I was listening to Okonjo Iweala recently, and I was like, damn, she's great.
Imagine
Imagine if she was like
that
head of
woman, and
ECOWAS.
she has gone as far as the World Trade Organization. Imagine if she handled ECOWAS.
ECOWAS.
You can imagine,
Bro.
like, first of all, we need to get rid of that man. God forgive me. Like, not get rid of, like, killing him. Like, he needs to leave.
Bro, had to
Like,
clarify.
he needs to leave, bruh. He knows his name. I can't call his name, but he knows himself. He knows himself. That guy is a parasite, bro. He has destroyed our lives for real. MTN just increased tariffs.
Oh, please don't even say that.
100%.
You know the funny thing, I'm happy that I was one of the last people to enjoy data at 2000.
And the thing is, we are not going to talk. All of us, we're just going to be quiet by next week.
We'll complain and then we'll adapt. It's literally Nigeria.
Nah, this country is whack, bro. It's whack. ECOWAS is not our only problem. We have our problems as well. The countries. I think we didn't talk about the fact that with the colonial like experience we've had, it's one of the reasons why ECOWAS is very difficult to manage and like it's not really working. It seems like all these like, African countries as colonialists are just like, I'm French, you're Anglophone. Like, come on, man. Try and get rid of this colonialist mentality.
It's definitely still.
It's still a thing, exactly. Especially that Senegal, these guys act like they're some type of black French. Like, bro.
Exactly.
Get your life together, man.
It's very disgusting. Like, the loyalty to...
It's ridiculous. But however, recently, the French troops are beginning to leave Senegal. Their new president told them, yo, to bounce. And I love it. But I think we at the coastline countries in West Africa need to follow suit. But anyway, I think we've had a very, very great discussion about ECOWAS. Based on our analysis, I think we have come to a conclusion that ECOWAS really died because really dying, right? But not really. Basically, the cancer that ECOWAS has, malignant, it can be removed surgically. We have given Covan, David, have given set of guidelines. I don't think I really gave any guidelines of how to solve the problem. I think I just ranted my pains. Covan and David, they did justice on my behalf. So I think we had a great discussion. I would like to end the podcast this note. Hey, thank you guys for listening. And obviously, you're going to join us again next Saturday. We upload this one, our next episode. You guys, you guys should say bye.
Bye.
Bye.